All right, so we're all going to take the Detroit Pistons tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Actually, I would rather stick forks in my eyeballs than have to watch that game. But welcome in. Plenty of other opportunities to cash some tickets here tonight in the association, the NBA tip-off show powered by WagerTalk.com. Now, the good news is among those games we have breaking down three of the best at Wager Talk, we're going to come up with a couple of different angles for you in these games tonight, whether it be with the prop god, Andy Lang, who is in the house, or Bryan Power, who also he's itching to bet the Detroit Pistons tonight on the money line. Hell with your points, I'm hearing, but we'll get to that. And, of course, Rob Vino in the house trying to put it all together and make it all make sense. Gentlemen, welcome in here. Let us start, as we customarily do, with the contrarian gods who looked at the slate apparently tonight and said, yeah, how many more games do we have to watch the New Orleans Pelicans piss away before we realize they're not very good at winning by margin? 8.5 right now with the Utah Jazz, and that is where the contrarian gods are going with this one. So, Andy, kick us off here on the show. Do you agree with the contrarian gods, number one? And number two, anybody you'd be focusing in on prop-wise in this game?
Yeah, a couple notes here. The last 5 games, if you're looking at shorter sample size, the Pelicans are number 2 in defensive rating. Utah 16th. That's certainly a big improvement from where they were at the beginning of the year. And pretty interesting, last 5 games, Pelicans number 13 in offensive rating. Utah's 4th. So I do agree with this move. Give me all those points with the Utah Jazz. So and there is one guy who I think there's a pretty noticeable trend here, and that's Zion Williamson going under his assist total. I'll take under 4.5 assists. He was giving out a lot of assists in the early part of the season, the middle of the season. Those assists are going back to the guards. It feels like he's they're asking a lot less of point Zion, and he's gone under this in 7 straight games. And even if you his overall stats, last month he was averaging 5.3 assists per game. This month he's down to 3.7. So you're just seeing Zion get a lot less assists, the ball movement on the perimeters partially, and now you've got a healthy CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram and all those guys. So I do agree with the Jazz and the points, and I'll take Zion under 4.5 assists.
Not a bad look. Like it there. How about it, BP? Are you in agreement with the contrarian gods in this one, given the history of New Orleans recently just not being able to win by margin? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I know it's the end of a 5-game road trip for the Jazz, but they've won the last 3 and honestly could be 4-0 had they not lost a lead here in Cleveland in the opener of the road trip. So, yeah, give me points here. The Jazz, they're already 2-0 against the Pelicans this season, 7-2 straight up and against the number of the last 9 head-to-head. You look at New Orleans as a favorite, Joe. Let's kind of expand on what you said about the Pelicans struggling to win by margin. They're only 8-8 straight up as a favorite this year, including those 2 previous losses to the Jazz where they were favored each time. And even if they get up big, again, you can't trust them with the lead. They blow the double-digit advantages in a pair of losses to the Grizzlies. They are 0-6 straight up, are the Pelicans, in games decided by 3 points or less. That's going to hurt you, when it comes to, the Western Conference standings, obviously. And then you look at Utah. They're not a good team, obviously. We know that, but they're healthier than they've been in a month with George and Horton Tucker back. So give me the points. I will agree with the contrarian gods in this one. New Orleans, just not a team you can trust in the chalk roll.
Well, that's unfortunate, Rob Vino. That means we've got 2 in favor of the contrarian gods. Are we making it a clean sweep, or are you going to make a case to back New Orleans in some sort of double-digit win here? I don't see that coming. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'll give you like 30 seconds to open up all your offshore windows, Joe, so you can go ahead and
here we go.
Just go ahead and do it now. Go like 8.5 because I'd love to try the other way, but I have to agree with what everybody's saying here. I like Utah here. It is as Brian mentioned, it's the end of the road trip, 5 games, but they've been spaced out really well. It's 5 games in 9 days, which has allowed Larry Markkinen to not have to take time off when you get days in between. They don't have to play him front end, rest him back end. They're totally healthy. Brian hinted on that as well. And when you look through and just start matching up player personnel, the Jazz, they don't play a heck of a lot of defense where the overall statistics are concerned, but I think Andy was rattling off some last 5 games, and that last 5 games correlates to health. But Walker Kessler, Kelly Olynyk, John Collins, Larry Markin, that's pretty good foursome in your front court. Sexton and Clarkson to score from the backcourt. They've added Chris Dunn into the starting lineup to try and get some defense. I don't know. To me, they match up really well. Now, the one problem I had was when New Orleans lost the first time in somewhat heartbreaking fashion to the Memphis Grizzlies, they bounced right back and beat Cleveland by 19 the very next game. They're a little ticked off. They went out and won. I don't know that same sentiment exists for New Orleans. They just don't seem like the type of team that gets that fire and motivation maybe once in a while, but not consistently. And to me, Utah right now playing really well on this road trip. They're actually overall last 9 games, 6-3 straight up, 7-2 ATS. So you're going to give me 8.5 with a team that can really score here. I'm going to try it. I'll, like I say, open up the offshores because you can go ahead and bang Memphis as hard as you can right now. But I'm going to try New Orleans plus 8.5.
Yeah, I can't. It's kind of hard to not see that. Their expectations just not being met with New Orleans because they can't close anybody out here. All right, so we do have a pretty interesting game coming up. At least it was until we started seeing all the question marks around it. And that's going to be Denver and Memphis here tonight. Memphis, just everybody's favorite team now. That Ja Morant is back, Marcus Smart back. They're winning games. Well, now you got to go on the road to Denver to take on the dog pound here. I mean, Aaron Gordon not available because of apparently hanging out with apparently too many dogs. But we do have KCP back here tonight, I believe. But the problem is we got Ja, I believe, still questionable here. And I guess maybe that's why we're seeing the movement in the marketplace. Regardless, what are you thinking here, Andy, when you look at this matchup here tonight? Is there anybody you'd be focusing in on in the prop market here?
I mean, it's a tragedy what happened to Aaron Gordon, and yet we do a segment called "That's My Dog." I mean, it's just, the jokes just write themselves here on this one. So shout out to Aaron Gordon. I hope he returns sooner rather than later. Yeah. So without Ja Morant, without us knowing his full status, this is kind of just a stab. You just have to wait and see if he plays. If he does play, take Desmond Bane over 4.5 assists. In all 4 games that Morant has played in since his return, Bane has gone over, and his assist average has jumped up to 6 assists per game. So it just feels like Desmond doesn't have to shoot quite as much with John Morant there, and he seems to be passing the ball more. So if you look at his game log, you see a real spike in assists since the return of John Morant. So if he plays, I think that could be a good spot for the next few games moving forward.
Okay. We've got we got some questions here, I think, with both of these teams that will get answered here a little bit, BP. But are you leaning side total? How would you approach this Memphis Denver game here tonight? Currently 8.5, which is what Denver is laying.
Yeah, just to reiterate the obvious, it's just such a difficult handicap with Morant's questionable status. You had mentioned it earlier, Joe. The Grizzlies have become quite a trendy team to back of late, and for good reason, though. 4-0 straight up ATS their last 4. Morant scored 30 or more in 3 of those games. He's, of course, on the dreaded, he's got the dreaded illness on the injury list to clarify. And Gordon, as you mentioned, out for the Nuggets as well. But they've won 8 of 9 overall. My thought is, with Morant's status up in the air, okay, it's difficult to, this isn't on my card or anything, but if you're looking, this is, I think, the best way to approach this game. Let's cut this thing in half and just look at the Nuggets first half, because Denver is outscoring teams by 6 points per game in the first half at home this season. Looking at the WagerTalk.com odds screen just before we went on the air, I was seeing 4s, 4.5s there. I would lay that, and hopefully we can just count our money at halftime. You don't have to sit out any funny business late in the game. But Denver typically has been really strong in the first half. They've been playing well. Maybe they keep it going here, even a couple days removed from Christmas. They are the better team after all. So I don't think a 5-point halftime advantage is asking too much from the world champs.
All right, like that angle. How about it, Vino, in this matchup here tonight? If he's a go, what does this line drop to, Vino, or does it drop?
Well, at least goes back to its original status and probably down from there, right? We see how the reaction to injuries, especially to star players, goes, and it just goes and goes and goes until the tip, and then you just see wherever it landed. It's interesting, Joe, because Memphis has a lot of ground to make up, right? At 10-19, they still have to get wins. The 25 without Ja hurt them immensely. So I almost feel like the motivation is in their corner here with or without Ja Morant. Desmond Bane, as you mentioned, Marcus Smart now back, but Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson probably becomes a bit of a problem without Aaron Gordon in the lineup now, because that's who the Nuggets look to defend frontliners. It's not going to be MPJ that's going to defend unless he's getting a block from behind. So, there's still some assets to this Memphis team that's on a pretty good roll. Confidence is high. Denver can win without covering, all that type of stuff. They didn't cover on Christmas Day, missed by half a point. It depends when you got the line. Of course, you could have won with Denver if you got the opener, but the closer was 6.5 and they won by 6. That was the first home game off of a road trip, which generally we do like to bet against the home team. Denver's been really good at home as far as winning games is concerned, not as good at covering them, but they do win by 10.4 on average at home. So a lot of things to consider here. I think that when it's listed as illness because of this nationwide flu season and whatnot, the more times I've seen this in the injury report, generally that player does not go for at least one game. So I don't expect Ja to go here in this contest. All that being said, I do think that they have a chance to get within 8.5. This game probably moved too far for, again, a team that's confident, a team that's motivated, a team that needs wins. Denver, yeah, they're in a scrap with Minnesota and Oklahoma City inside the division, but it's not like they're desperate to win by 9 points here. So maybe Memphis plus.
All right, Memphis, they're worth keeping an eye on what happens in that game before the tip tonight in Denver. We do have a total that we, of course, like to focus on the card here tonight. We'll head out west. Why not? Let's take a look at everyone's favorite over team, the Miami Heat, taking on the Golden State Warriors. And sure enough, we've seen this thing get jacked up 224 to 228.5, even 229s are starting to pop up here in the marketplace. And if we take a look at the latest injury report, it looks like Duncan Robinson's a go. It looks like Haywood Highsmith's a go. Jimmy, Kyle Lowry, and Caleb Martin are out. And shocker, Draymond's not going to be there. So what are you thinking here, Andy? It looks like the market believes we're going to get some points in this game. Are you on the same page, and who are you looking at?
Yeah, probably overs here. I think it's a really good spot for Hawkes, over 25.5 points, rebounds, and assists with no Jimmy Butler and no Kyle Lowry. I mean, this guy has really come on. Last 2 games he played without Jimmy Butler, he had 27 PRA against Atlanta, and then he had 42 in that huge game against Philadelphia. And you just look at his stats over the course of the season. I mean, his minutes, points, rebounds, assists have all gone up. This is a guy that was started off the year 17 minutes a game. Now he's averaging 33 minutes per game in December. Just without Butler and no Lowry, there's just a lot of stats to go around. We saw this with Joel Embiid being out. The stats got to go somewhere. So if we do like the over, and this over is creeping up, you got to like some of these Miami players to go over, and I think Hawkes is going to fill the stat sheet tonight. Not really sure anybody on Golden State is going to be able to keep up with him for the entire game. So Hawkes over PRA, my best bet in this game.
Boom. All right. What are you thinking here, BP? We've been joking that all throughout the year that Miami quietly becoming a pretty good over bet here. And I would imagine after that terrible game that Steph had against Denver there on Christmas, when it appears he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, we're probably going to get a better effort from him here tonight. And I just don't know how much better of an effort you need to get, though, to hit this thing in the 230 mark. What are you thinking? Over, or are you liking the under here?
I think it's a pretty high number for Miami, Joe. I understand everything you just said. You know, they've been an over team, but man, it's getting to the point now where I think maybe you do consider an under. You mentioned no Jimmy Butler tonight. Maybe a big game for Bam Adebayo as a result, but I just don't see these teams combining for 230, actually. Maybe a letdown. Remember, it's the first game after Christmas for both. We're all still kind of knocking the cobwebs out after the holiday season. The Heat averaged just 110 points per game on the road. You know, you're like, what's the big deal there? Well, that's down from 116.7 at home. And defensively, they allow just 107.3 on the road versus 116.5 at home. So pretty drastic splits when you look at home versus road for Miami. They're not as drastic for Golden State when you look at home versus road, but they do score less and give up less at home versus the road. The difference is about 2 points in both departments. So it's, again, not on my card, but I would see how high this number creeps up. And I would maybe look to come in with an under because you're going to be getting good value, obviously, with the number being bet up so many points here. I would not go over. I would actually, in fact, look the other way and an under, perhaps.
All right. It's gotten to the point where he thinks the value is on the under in this one. Vino, how about you, man? We certainly like our undervalued Miami team this year here, but has the market gone too crazy with this number?
Not if you just go straight to team total, Joe. The team total for the Heat tonight is 111.5. I mean, I'll just throw some numbers at you. Golden State's allowed 112 or better in 8 of their last 9. So defensively, they're not there. Some of that correlates to no Draymond, but they're just not playing a defensive brand of basketball right now. In fact, their last 9 games have all gone over this number we're looking at tonight, 229. So it's not, it'd be 9-0 to the over against this type of number. For the Heat, if you want to play over 111.5, here's what they've scored in 7 of their last 8 games: 119, 122, 115, 118, 116, 115, 116. Pretty consistent. A lot of those without Jimmy Butler, right? They don't always have a full complement of players, yet they find ways with Hero, et cetera, Duncan Robinson to score their share of points. I've got a home team that's not really playing a heck of a lot of defense, that's not playing a heck of a lot of under 229s. And I've got a road team that scored over 111.5 like it's easy. So to me, I'm a big proponent. You said it earlier. I come on here often talking about how odds makers undervalue Miami from an over perspective. I don't think that label's ever going to go away with this team. So why not just keep taking advantage of it? I'll try team total over 111.5.
Boom, there you go. Another good way to look at it here tonight with the Heat travel out west taking on the Golden State Warriors. All right, we've got, of course, plenty of opportunities in the dog market here tonight. I don't see Aaron Gordon on this list, so that's a good thing. Why don't we go ahead, Robert, and check out what the dogs are doing here tonight?
That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. And anybody got to say anything, you let me know. That's my dog.
All right, let's check it out here. A couple of intriguing ones. None better than the Pistons tonight, getting 17, taking on the Celtics. Pacers, the Grizz we talked about. Charlotte out against the Lakers there. Dallas, no Doncic. The Miami Heat there. The Spurs and the Utah Jazz. So some interesting dogs here tonight, Andy Lang. Give us one that might be barking for you here.
Don't laugh, but I take the 2 touchdowns and a field goal with the Detroit Pistons.
Oh!
I mean, come on. 17 points. 17. That's just way too many points. Listen, they've been losing. They only lost by 6 to Brooklyn, 11 before that, 8 to Utah, 6 to Atlanta. They're not getting completely blown off the court recently. And Jaylen Brown was just, earlier today, he's out for this game. So that's a big big component. And when you're looking at the schedule for the Boston Celtics, I'm not sure this is a spot where they want to have all hands on deck and give a full effort. They've got Toronto tomorrow. They only have one day off. Then they go on the road at San Antonio. They have one more day off, and then they're at Oklahoma City. So there's really no reason to put a lot of wear and tear on your starters, especially when you've got a home game to Toronto. So I could see Tatum kind of taking it a little bit easy, especially Porzingis maybe take it a little easy. So I'm sure Boston's going to win, but 17 points is just an awful lot in the fourth quarter. This could be the Detroit starters versus most of the backups for the Celtics, and I like Detroit to keep it within the 17 points. That's just 17 is crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's there are dogs, and then there is the Detroit Pistons, where that's just, we're gonna have to figure out a new label for the Pistons here. But hey, 17 is 17. Let's not get crazy. They're still a professional team, right? Brian Power, which dog barking for you tonight here?
Yeah, and I will hear Andy Lang's Detroit Pistons, and I will raise him the Charlotte Hornets as we continue to scrape the bottom of the NBA barrel here on the program. Look, going back to when they won the inaugural in-season tournament, which I know is one of your favorite events, Joe, the Lakers are just 2-6 straight up and against the number their last 8 games. One of those wins was against lowly San Antonio by just 3. The other, far more impressive, it was in Oklahoma City, 129-120. LeBron, a vintage performance there with 40 points. But it was back to the loss column on Christmas against Boston. And the Lakers' defensive numbers have been really, really bad of late. Here's how many points they've allowed in these 8 games since winning that in-season tournament. 127, 119, 129, 114, 124, 118, 120, 126. Joe, makes it pretty tough to cover when you're a double-digit favorite. You're giving up that many points. Now, let's not bury the lead. Charlotte has not won since December 8th, and some of the losses have been really, really putrid. But even with Ball, Hayward, Williams all out, this is just the 3rd time over the last 3 seasons the Lakers are favored by 12.5 or more. First time this season, similar to what Andy's saying, it's just too many points to pass up here on a random night in the NBA in the month of December. Give me the 12.5. Charlotte. Yes, Charlotte is my dog.
Wow, this is taking this to a whole different level here, Vino, with these with the dogs they're throwing out here tonight. How about you? Got something a little less throwing up on? What do you think here tonight?
Yeah, I can't throw up with those guys with that. Although, you know what? Every ticket has a chance to cash, right? So let's go cash Hornets and Pistons. But I'm going to go back to what we talked about earlier, because I just think that the Grizzlies are in one of those grooves in the NBA where you want to get involved in the cycle. In baseball, we do it quite often, right? Team gets on a streak. Let's go follow the streak until it runs out. And to me, that's where Memphis is right now. Although Ja is still listed as starting in this game by most of your fantasy spots, where and of course his point total and all his personal statistical categories are still available to be bet on. So they think he's going to play. I'm not so sure. If he does, great. You're getting 8.5 before he actually is announced. If he doesn't, I still don't think it matters. Again, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. becomes a handful here. I think Desmond Bane becomes a handful here. And I think that Memphis has a little bit of a wave that they can ride. One more thing here real quick, guys, is that, and Andy, you'll know this, Nikola Jokic, generally speaking, if you want to play his PRA, that is usually priced anywhere from, off the top of my head, 48.5 to 53.5. He's always up there in that combo bet. He doesn't do that well against this team. Last 5 games out against the Grizzlies, points 20.6, rebounds 14.4, assists 7.8. I say he doesn't really do that good. Those are great numbers, right? But they only add up to 42.8, which is like 6 or 7 less than what he's expected to do every single night. So Memphis does have the bigs up front, and they do have a way to at least slow him down a bit if you do so. Again, without Aaron Gordon on the defensive end, I just think 8.5 seems to be too much. So I will make Memphis. That's my dog for today.
Ooh, all right. So there we go. We got a couple of dogs here. We got a total. We got, of course, a big preview, Contrarian Gods. It is now time for some best bets here on the show. And before we get to them, do want to go ahead and remind you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that like button. Become part of the Wager Talk TV family, as nobody has got more daily content than we do, especially when it comes to all the big matchups throughout the week and coming up, for that matter. NBA, college basketball, NHL, NFL, of course, still got to crown a national champion in college football. So a lot going on right now. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and join the Wager Talk TV family. All right, 60 seconds on the clock. We give these guys an opportunity to do whatever the hell they want to do with it. Just drop us a best bet somewhere in there. Andy, you know the routine. Kick us off. Where are we looking for a best bet here tonight?
I'm actually going to go back to the Grizzlies and Nuggets for my best bet on this one. A couple plays that we have up at Wager Talk. We have an NHL play that is up. Been low volume this year, but we are on a 5-0 streak in NHL, so looking forward to pushing that to 6-0 tonight. And we got a 5% NFL play that is up, and that 5% pack is going to include all NFL plays for the weekend. We're on a 35-15 run in NFL. Best bet going Jamal Murray under 24.5 points. Since John Morant came back, the Grizzlies' third best defensive rating in the league. Memphis allows 24 points per game to opposing point guards. So you're asking a lot for Jamal Murray to get there. And Murray has gone under in 8 out of 11 games since his return. We've talked about Aaron Gordon. Jamal Murray has scored 16, 8, and 16 points in the last 3 games that he's played without Aaron Gordon. Marcus Smart could D him up and force a lot of passes. So as long as John Morant plays, I like Jamal Murray to come under this 24.5 points total.
All right. Good stuff. All right. Good job there, Andy. BP, you are up. 60 seconds on the clock. Point us in the direction of a best bet here tonight.
Yeah, let's take a look under its team total, guys. This is taking money. The Mavs have suffered a terrible loss. Or they just did suffer a terrible loss last night, falling at home here in Cleveland to the Cavs, 113-110, blew a 20-point first-half lead to an opponent that was shorthanded, 5-minute stretch in the fourth quarter where the Mavs didn't score a single point. And Luka Doncic, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Joe, he is out. Kyrie Irving is out. I don't know what the deal with Doncic is. If you looked at him in the closing seconds of that Cleveland game, it looked like he was disgusted, so he might just be out with disgust. I don't know. You'll have to check the official injury report here. But the bottom line is this. Tonight, Dallas shorthanded facing a Minnesota team that for the balance of the year has been number 1 in the league defensively. Their efficiency numbers are great, and they're going to be out to prove a point because they just got blitzed by Oklahoma City last time out. That's not happening here against a team that's shorthanded in the second night of a back-to-back. Dallas team total under 106.5 is my best bet.
Boom! All right, get it going. Yeah, going to be a little difficult to see where the points are coming from there, Dallas. But opportunity presenting itself here. Rob, Vino, you two know the routine. We got 60 seconds on the clock. Point us in the direction of a best bet here, my man.
Yeah, and what would a show be without an over, Joe? So let's look at Utah and New Orleans up and over the 239.5 here tonight. Last couple of games Utah has played on this road trip, 248, 245. They've shot 49.5% or better in 4 of their last 5. And again, it all correlates to everybody being healthy. It's a pretty deep team with offensive weaponry when they're all together. They have scored 119 or more in 4 of those last 5. So I think the points will be there against the New Orleans team. It's kind of a reversal from what they did a couple of months ago when they met on back-to-back games. They played 2 unders, but again, there were a lot of injuries to Utah, some injuries to New Orleans. We're getting full teams here in this one. New Orleans, 116 a game at home against a defenseless Utah team. They really don't play a lot of defense. They're just going to outscore you. And like I said earlier, the Pelicans, after they lost to Memphis the first time, came back with a 123-point effort. I think both of these teams get to 120 plus here. I'm going to take over 239.5.
Okay. Boom. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Up and over Utah and New Orleans. And there you got it. We got 3 best bets here for you with the Mavs team total under. As that continues to drop, it doesn't look like Doncic going to be anywhere near it here. That's for BP. You just heard Vino tell you about Utah, New Orleans, and over. And Andy coming over the top with Jamal Murray under 24.5 points there tonight in that game against Memphis. So there you got it. We got 3 best bets. We got a whole lot going on. Pretty good slate in the NBA here tonight. Fingers crossed for Andy, as well as BP, with those absolutely disgusting dogs they threw out here today with Detroit and Charlotte. May they cash on the money line. That would be absolutely fantastic. We'll be back again tomorrow. Another great slate as we get ready to head into the weekend with the NBA. Until then, though, go ahead, click on that video on your screen right now. More great head-to-head matchups coming up this weekend. We have got you covered. Check them all out here and hit subscribe, as well as the like button here on Wager Talk TV. Until tomorrow, best of luck. We'll talk to you again soon.